Thank you very much indeed. Is it better for you if I stand, or does it make any difference if I sit down? I'm an old man. So I can stand, I think it'll be okay. So I'm officially here to welcome you to this, to the Voices in Exile, a multilingual evening of Persian poetry with Azita Ghahreman, who you will see on screen, and her translators, Elhum, Shakerifar, who I hope I'm pronouncing that okay, and Maura, Dooley. I'll introduce them separately. The event has been organized by the Poetry Translation Center together with the National Center for Writing, and in Malmö, Sweden, which is where we also have an audience in. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. It's the Världspoesidagen. Okay. This is Malmö World Poetry Day, which is yesterday, of course, but carries on forever if you really want it to. So a word about the Poetry Translation Center. It's the UK's only organization dedicated to translating poetry from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. It was founded 20 years ago. It's its 20th anniversary now, in 2004, by Sarah Maguire, the late Sarah Maguire, and it exists to introduce new audiences to leading poets from around the world, as well as to better understand and celebrate the diverse communities who have made their homes in the UK. Now, in 2012, the PTC brought together Azita Ghahreman, Elhum Shakerifar, and Maura Dooley to translate a selection of Azita's poems for a small chapbook. And that went so well that they went on to commission a full collection of Azita's poems in translation, negative of a group photograph, which you'll find copies of at the back, as well as copies of books by Maura. In translation, negative of a group photograph co-published by the PTC together with Blood Axe. So a quick introduction to the poets and the translators, starting with the poet. So you have Azita Ghahreman, who's an Iranian poet, writer and translator, who's lived in Sweden since 2006. She's the author of 6 poetry collections, 3 short story collections, and her writing has been translated into 13 languages. In 2013, she was a recipient of Swedish Penn's Prince Wilhelm Award. And in 2014, Russian and Ukrainian translations of her poems were awarded the Udmurtia Russian Academy's Ludwig Nobel Prize. Her selected poems, negative of a group photograph, Blood Axe, were translated by Elhum and by Maura. It won a PEN Award and was nominated for the Warwick Prize for Women in Translation. Her latest short story collection was published in Swedish in 2022, and in 2024, her essay, A City Called Exile, translated into English by Alireza Abiz, appears in Living in Language, published by the PTC in its 20th birthday year. Maura Dooley, her most recent collection, 555, published by Blood Axe, was published in 2023. She has been shortlisted for the Forward Single Poem Award, twice for the T.S. Eliot Prize, and is a recipient of both the Gregory and Chumley Award. Maura has also taught fiction and memoir, programmed literary festivals, and worked in theatre. She is a Professor Emerita at Goldsmiths, London, and a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. And Elhum is a poet, essayist, and translator. In 2022, she was one of the writers and scribes' inaugural poetry Griots, and she was a Visible Communities resident at the National Center for Writing in 2023. Elhum is also a BAFTA-nominated producer and curator working through a London-based company, Hakawafi, storyteller in Arabic. So the order of things will be, I will now sit down, and there will be readings from Azita, and there'll be translations from Elhum and from Maura. They read about 5 poems, I think, in both languages. and then we'll sit down and have a conversation. And at the end of this, you may be asked to have a question ready. So please do. Please welcome the poet and translators.
Hello. At the beginning,
hello, Azita.
Thank you.
We are longing to hear your poems.
Yes.
So very much welcome, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. At the beginning, I welcome you all. And I read a poem that its name is The Boat That Brought Me. I wrote this poem at the beginning of my arrival in Malmö. I was full of conflicting emotion. And yeah, قایقی که مرا آورد. پشت چهره‌ای که چشم‌های تو را داشت، اسم‌های قدیمی غیب می‌شود. خون عکسی مچاله دارد و باد پرنده‌ای مسیست. انگار بیابان از روی ژاکتم مرا پوشیده باشد. برهنه نیستم. گاهی کلمات در سرفه هایم و ماه کفالود در لیوان گم می شود. این سفر همیشه دور زبانم چرخید و رگهایم از مرگ چیزی پنهان نکرد. برای کشیدن قدمهایی به خط سلس تابستان مرا اقرار کرده بود. این کرک سبز دور انگشت‌های یخزده. موج به طرز زیبایی شبیه عشق می آمد و پس می نشست. دلم برای قایقی که مرا آورد گاهی تنگ می شود. و اینجا شاهدم برابر پلک‌های زمستان همین آسمان کهنه است و چمدانی که نیمرخ آبی مرا پنهان می کند.
Thank you, Azita. Lovely to hear your voice reading. The Boat That Brought Me. Behind these eyes that look like mine, old names are fading away. The past lies crumpled in my clenched fist, a coppery bird in coppery wind. This vast place has covered me from head to toe. I am not stripped of word and thought, but sometimes what I want to say gets lost, like a moon smudged with cloud, or when I splutter on a drink. My tongue trips up when I speak of that journey, though the blood in my veins felt the truth of death. As I traced my footsteps through the tracery of my old language, summer whispered to me. My frozen fingers began to put out shoots, and I began to love the cold ebb and flow of tides. Sometimes I miss the boat that brought me here, now that I am witness to the icy eyes of a Swedish winter under these tired old clouds, while that suitcase still holds a patch of the sky blue me.
Maura. The second poem, its name is Homeless. I remember when I wrote this poem, there was a war in Iran 35 years ago. The cities of southern of Iran, which were close to the border of Iraq border, were most destroyed, and the people of those cities were homeless and displaced. آواره کفی خاک در مشت میبرم، در گوشه ای از روحم باران مدام میبارد، بر طرح نخل‌های ویران بر ماه واژگون. آیا هنوز وطن جایی است روی نقشه جغرافی، با کناره‌های سبز، با رگان فیروزه؟ وقتی باد برده است خانه‌ام، کشتگاهم، اسبم، چراغم، کفش‌هایم را جا گذاشتم زیر طاق شکسته، شویم را به دره‌ای تاریک، پسرانم را سپردم، یکی به دجله دیگری به فرات. کجاست وطن جز حاله زخمی به کنج یاد، تا ببری خسته خمیده و خاموش از پیچا پیچ راه ها، نیمی به دل نیمی به دوش.
Homeless. In my fist, I take a handful of earth. In a corner of my soul lies a landscape of desolate palm trees, where the rain never stops falling and the moon hangs upside down. Is home still a place in the atlas, green borders and turquoise veins? When the wind has taken my house, my lands, my horse, my light, when I had to flee barefoot, when I've lost even the roof over my head, my husband in a dark valley, my sons entrusted, one to the Tigris, one to the Euphrates. Where then is home? Other than in the corner of my memory, in that ruined halo which clapped out, collapsing, quiet from those twisting, turning roads you carry, half in your heart, half on your back.
The third poem, its name is Spring. Just in this date when spring comes and we Iranians celebrate the new year, Nowruz, I wrote this poem. It was a hardship time because of war. Every day we had bad news, but at the same time, beautiful spring had also appeared everywhere. The trees were full of the flowers and the birds on the sky. I found spring is a symbol of hope, changing, and mystery of life. I wrote this poem for this. It was about 36 years ago. Bahar. ای باد، آیا گذشتی از کوچه های حلبچه، خرمشهر و کربلا؟ آنجا چگونه شکفته شاخه های نخل؟ در بغداد از کودکان بسیاری نماندند تا بپوشند اولین کفش عمر خود و گام بردارند با مادر در شارع الحمید. آب نبات چوبی بخواهند یا عروسکی کوکی. در آبادان نه بر گهواره کودکی است، نه باغچه‌ای سبز است، نه ایوان خانه از نسترن چراغان. آن پسرک سبز روی بندر اگر بود، حالا مردی بود بلند بالا و مشکین موی. می توانست عاشق باشد، کتاب بخواند، خانه بسازد و باد بکوبد در خانه او را. اما بانوی ما بهار هر سال به لحظه موعود دوباره می آید. تا عبور کند از هزار دروازه شفاف، اسب‌های شعله‌ور ابر به دنبالش. او همیشه می‌آید، گاه با گوری در سینه اش، دامنی سوخته در جنگ، صورتی آغشته به گل، به باروت و بوی نفت. آمده است که باز ببافد با نخهای نیلگون که شکافته از جامه تنگ سال پیش تصویر یک پرنده را پشت هر دریچه و ایوان. رنج را نگینی سبز جای چشمانش، زخم را طرحی جای منقارش، تا همیشه سرخ بخواند.
Salam Azita Jan. Spring. Ah, wind, did you pass the streets of Halabja, Khorramshahr, and Karbala? Have the date palms blossomed there yet? In Baghdad, many children didn't last long enough to wear their first pair of shoes, to toddle with their mothers down Al-Hamid Road, to long for lollipops or clockwork dolls. In Abadan, there were no babies in the cradles, no green gardens, no balconies lit up with eglantine. If that little olive-skinned boy from the port were here, he would be a man by now, tall with jet black hair. He might have fallen in love, read books, built a house. The wind might have tapped at his door. But Our Lady, the spring, each year, at the promised hour, she returns to slip through 1,000 glassy gates, the galloping clouds aflame at her heels. She always comes back, sometimes with death at her breast, skirts singed by war, face stained with mud, gunpowder, the stink of petroleum. She returns to use again all that she unpicked from last year, sewing in every nook and cranny in cerulean thread the image of a bird. Pain like a green stone in the place of its eyes, and a wound where its beak should be, so it can sing out its scarlet song.
The fourth poem, its name is Negative of a Group Photograph. This poem is about two famous Iranian poets and writers who both died in the yacht, one by suicide and the other in an accident. One day I found the negative of an old photo. I wrote this poem in memory of my friends. نگاتیو یک عکس دست جمعی. در این عکس جوانتر از تمام جمله های جعلی و سوم شخص غائب. زیر بلوز و دامن حرف هایم برجسته مثل پروانه ای در جلد تابستان به شگردی از لای انگشت ها شاعرانه از درس های مخفی بیرون پریدم. قلبم به دقت تحت نظر بود. با 2 قدم فاصله پشت خودم کمین برهنه نشسته بودم. در آن سیاهی دنبال صنوبری بیره، شاید پی ریسمانی سبز میگشتم. غزاله حتما یادتان هست. در این عکس جوانتر از سایه‌ام، تنم و هرچه باید ننویسم. برای جبران زیر پوست دخترم مادرم را تنگ پوشیدم. چرخیدیم رو به ابرهای نخستین، چرخیدیم تا ریشه های باران را بگیرم. اما در سینه‌ام هنوز جای 7 زن همیشه زخمی و خالی است. نازنین حتما یادتان هست. آن روزها از جنگ دیوانه تر صدای سکوت می آمد، با کلمه های ترسیده زیر پتوی کهنه سربازی. شعر تنها آغوش امن تا مرا بغل بگیرد. زبانش اگر نمی گرفت روی کودکی لای شکاف ها پشت سین و جیم به رمز خطی می نوشت شکسته بسته. بین تابستان و شاخه های کبود فاصله می افتاد. بین راهی که پیچید دور گلویم، حرفی که در دهانت آتش گرفت. فکر نمی کنم مرا یادتان باشد. در این عکس از هر طرف سایه ها را با قیچی بریدم. خطایت دوباره ادامه دنیاست. شعر تنها پیراهن عیدی که من بلد بودم و عشق زیباتر از همیشه، سرهای ما کنار هم نزدیک شانه اش. در این عکس عجیب جوانترین، با ارادت آهسته و صمیمی، دوستدار همیشگیتان. در نگاتیو لکه های سفید و تاریکی با لبخندی تمام قد چفت دیوار رو به دنیا خبردار ایستاده ای.
Negative of a group photograph. I am younger in this photograph, younger than anything I've ever written, and I am the third missing person. Inside me, undercover, my words were taking shape, like a moth walking from its cocoon into summer, peering out from between my fingers, from my hiding place. As a poet, I stepped out. Keeping my heart well hidden, holding myself back a little, I sat exposed. In the darkness, I searched for that merciless tree and maybe the trace of a green rope, for you must remember Ghazaleh. I am younger in this photograph, younger than my own shadow. Anything that I could not write, I disguised, hiding myself in my daughter, losing myself in my mother. We sought relief in the first sign of spring rain, but my heart will always ache with the loss of these women, for you must remember Nazanin. Those days were crazier than any war, an almost silence where words were whispered fearfully under an old army blanket. Only poetry could hold us close, when it wasn't lost for words itself. Between the shape-shifting letters peeped a child's face, the writing all disjointed and hard to decipher. Between winter and summer, the overcast skies pushed us apart. Between the road that twisted around my neck and the words that took fire in your mouth. I don't think you remember me. With a pair of scissors, I trim away all shadows from the image, clothing us afresh for spring. Your lines were another new beginning, and poetry the only fresh clothes that I knew, a love that was more beautiful than ever. We are strangely young in this picture, our heads resting against one another, intimate, affectionate. There I am, in the stained old black and white negative, with our enormous fixed smiles, we face the world, standing tall.
The name of this poem is Words. I always think about my relationship with the words in the poem. What is my role? do I find myself with the words of my poem, or I hide myself behind the words. کلمات. خود را پشت کلمات گم می کند تا به دنبالش بگردی. با لحن باد صدایت میزند تا سر به چرخانی. با شعله علامت میدهد از بین جمله ها سرک میکشد. با نقاب لای عطر سوسن ها غیب میشود. تا از بیراهه تاریک دیوارها را دست به سایی و بیایی. تا بعد از پلی لغزان و مارپیچ پلکانی نمور در قدیمی را دوباره بکوبی و ناگاه مرا کنار خود پیدا کنی در هیئت زنی که هیچ شباهتی به او ندارد.
Words. She hides herself behind words so that you have to search for her. With the song of the wind, she calls to you so that you will turn to her. She sends up a flare. She peers up out of sentences and from beneath a veil. She slips into the scent of a lily, so that through this willful obscurity, you'll have to chip away at walls, cross the slippery, twisty bridge, climb the spiral staircase, come to knock on that old door again. And look, find me at your side, in the shape of a woman who is nothing like her.
The name of this poem is I Unfolded the Earth. از نو. کنار دریا روبروی کوه زیر همین آسمان زمین را از نو دوباره تا کردم. ماه در چمدانم بود، باران را بلند روی دست گرفتم. اسمم نه مهاجر است اینجا نه تبعیدی، به لهجه محلی دنیا همان که خاک مادرم قسم خورد. نشانیم آب است. شعر حالا تنها سفر می کند در جاده هایی گیج مثل یک سؤال طولانی که رازشان رد چند بریدگی است. عزیزی که اقیانوس و دره ها را به نامش طی کردم. ستاره و صحرا روی مسیر کودکیم روشن میتابید. باد دزدیده بود جلدم را، در جمله ها سنگ زوزه میکشید. فقط مسافری که شعر مینویسد، نه آنقدر ساده، بسته کوچک با روبان رنگی و مهر خاورمیانه. سطری برای عنوان اخبار امشب. تحقیقی برای حد مرد به شکل یک پرچم، صورتک، سایه. کنار دریا روبروی کوه زیر همین آسمان پشت دری بسته گربه سفید خانم اسپنسون را به سینه چسباندم. کلاغ و سرو و هرچه ساعت از شدت سکوت از آغوش من پرید و عشق دستش را به جای دوری گرفته بود تا نیفتد. من وسواس خوب بودن گرفتم اینجا، مرض اجرای دقیق قانون. شعرم ما خود سر و پا برهنه، آس و پاس و بی کجا، در حروفش تگرگ و شیشه در جنگند. تلفظ رودخانه در زبان او عمیق و آبی است و تنها نگفتن معنای عاشقانه‌ای دارد. حالا دیوانگی از امضای شما فوری‌تر، خوابی که دیده اید به شرط چرا یا به رسم آیا، مرزهای مرا دیگر اهلی نمی کند. کنار دریا روبروی کوه زیر این آسمان، دهانی که قفل بود آهسته بوسیدم. خدا نگهدار. برگشتم از بهشتی که دوستت دارم بلد نبود. راهی که دیگر تو را نمی رفت محکم مرا زمین کوبید. برگشتم این شعر لخت، این آسمان زخمی را بغل کنم. برای صبحی وحشی و درختی پا به راه شهر دیگری بزایم. روبروی کوه، کنار دریا، زیر همین آسمان.
Excuse me. I unfolded the earth. By the sea, in front of the mountain, under this very sky, I unfolded the earth anew again. The moon was in my suitcase. I held the rain up high in my hand. My name here is neither immigrant nor exile. In the true accent of the earth, the one I swore loyalty to on the grave of my mother, my emblem is water. Poetry now travels on alone, dizzy on its path, like the longest of questions. Its secret is a few old scars, a beloved, in the name of whom I travel the universe, stars, valleys and deserts. It shone brightly on my childhood path. The wind stole my cover. In my sentences, stones howled. Am I just a traveller who writes poetry? Not that simple. A small package tied with bright ribbons and a stamp from the Middle East. A detail in tonight's news headlines. A report on the number of dead in the shape of a flag, a small face, a shadow. By the sea, in front of the mountain, under this very sky, behind a closed door, I have clasped Mrs. Sweden's white cat in my arms. But now and then, crow and cypress tree leap from within, from my deep silence, and love holds on steadily to something very distant, so that it will not fall apart. I have become obsessed with behaving well here, a kind of illness of never putting a foot wrong. But poetry is headstrong, walks barefoot, cannot be directed, has no true home. Within its letters, inner and outer worlds are at war. In its language, the river speaks deep and blue. Only the word no has a loving meaning. The conditions, the whys and the wherefores, a kind of madness with the ease of a signature, it was a dream I had. New borders will not make me feel at home. By the sea, in front of the mountain, under this very sky, I slowly kissed goodbye to the mouth that was shut fast. May God be with you. I returned from a paradise that didn't understand I love you, a road that couldn't reach you. It knocked me flat. I returned, and taking this naked poem, that bruised sky, into my arms, uprooting myself, I set out on this wild morning to give birth again to a new city, by the sea, in front of the mountain, under this very sky.